From our previous adventures in Valdez and McCarthy, we hopped on the Glen Highway that would take us to the largest city in Alaska, Anchorage. The terrain and views along this road, like so many in Alaska, were amazing. We boondocked along the way at a few rustic spots that were quite popular, most likely due to the proximity to Anchorage. We resupplied here, taking advantage of cheap fuel and food before heading on down the Kenai Peninsula to the very southern tip in Homer. Past Anchorage, traveling on the Seward Highway, we drove along the 45-mile-long Turnagain Arm. Like so many other areas of Alaska, this bay experiences extreme tidal swings, and much of it is frequently exposed mud and silt flats. Turning off the Seward Highway onto the Sterling Road, we passed by the turquoise-colored Kenai Lake and followed its outlet, the Kenai River. This river is very popular in the summer for salmon fishing. The road eventually makes its way out of the mountains and follows the coast until cresting the bluff at the southern edge of the peninsula, revealing the town of Homer. Homer has a population of 5,000 and claims itself the halibut fishing capital of the world. The geography of this town is unique, as it has a natural spit of land that jets 4.5 miles out into Kachemek Bay. This land has been developed into the marina, a shopping district, and also a few campgrounds. Here we were meeting back up with a tour group that we had traveled into Alaska with, and had an oceanfront site alongside our friends. We walked around the spit, exploring the shops, restaurants, and marina, which was designed for the extreme tides. We also spent a bit of time watching the fishermen in a man-made inlet that gets stocked with salmon called the Homer Hole. This was right next to our campground and is an excellent place to catch salmon from the shore. While the fishing here is incredible, our freezer space was already maxed out, so we opted for a different kind of Alaskan wildlife adventure.
Today, we are hopping on a seaplane here in Homer. We're gonna fly over to Katmai National Park, where we are hopefully gonna see
some bears
up close.
So much of Alaska is only readily accessible by air, and this adventure would take us 100 miles across Cook Inlet to Katmai National Park, where there are no roads, but plenty of wildlife. Our morning flight was beautiful, and en route we passed Augustine Island, which is an active volcano that still occasionally erupts. We made landfall over Katmai National Park, and were in awe of the beautiful landscape beneath us that was shaped by much volcanic activity, similar to much of Alaska's Aleutian Islands.
After we landed, we all got off the plane, which we were very thankful then for our waiters, because we got off into a lake. We had basically landed in the tundra, and so we walked for about a mile through the tundra up over this bluff to where we could get to the river. When we got up to the top of the bluff, we could see the river, and that was our first glimpse of the bears. They were still a pretty good distance off, but still the closest that I had ever been to a grizzly bear. And everybody whipped out their cameras. They all started taking pictures, and our guide just kind of laughed at us all because he was like, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna get closer." A little bit further down the trail, we could see down into the river from our position on the bluff, and there were bears down there, and they were chasing these bright red fish in the water. They were so easy to see. They were such easy targets for these bears, and they were just going at it. So we kept following the trail, right? And when we got down to the river's edge, he had us all sit down right away because there were bears right on the other side of the river from us. So we sat there for a while watching this huge bear across the river fishing for salmon. This bear appeared to be quite old, and he also seemed a little bit lazy. After watching him for a while, as if we weren't close enough to a bear, the guide had us stand up and walk out into the river. We walked out onto this like grassy bar in the middle of the river where the river forked, and we all sat down there to watch bears literally all around us.
This is so cool.
I'd probably have to say that my favorite part of it was watching the mama and her baby cubs. There was one point that they walked all the way around us, and they were really, really close to us. So we could watch mama fishing for her babies, bringing the fish back to them just like digging into it, and they would play with it. They'd play with each other, and they were just so cute. Leading up to that point of being in that spot and watching these bears, I was really nervous about this whole thing. I mean, it just sounds crazy, but when you're there, when you're sitting with your group and you're all sitting quietly and you're all still and you're just watching these bears mind their own business, we really didn't feel in danger at all. They were very concentrated on what they were doing. They were very focused on the fish, and they really didn't care about us at all. Although there was one point where there was this really big bear, and there was one point he came walking straight at Tom. I was sitting right behind him, and I could tell he started getting a little nervous. So this bear probably got to like 20 feet away from Tom, and he all of a sudden went for a fish, and he caught this monster rainbow trout. And this bear took a bite of this rainbow trout, realized it wasn't a salmon, so he just spit it out and left this beautiful, gorgeous fish in the middle of the river and went walking on to find salmon. So when our time was up, we all hiked back to the plains. We all boarded, and looking at this short little lake, you don't really know if you're gonna make it off. Like, it was incredible that these planes could take off that fast, just hopped into the air. It would have been fine except the winds had picked up a little bit from the morning, so a little bit more turbulence. And our pilot also decided to go searching for wildlife and was flying really low, and while visuals were amazing looking out the window, pretty much for everybody else it was really amazing, except for me, I kind of got a little airsick. So the ride back for me wasn't really that much fun, and for a couple days I couldn't even look at a seaplane. The overall experience was incredible and extremely memorable.
The next day was Kate's birthday, and we kicked it off with a visit to the Bear Creek Winery. We were surprised to find wine in Alaska at all due to the climate, but here they make fruit wines or use imported grapes fortified with wild or local fruits and berries. That evening, we met up with the group for an incredible halibut fish fry that was put together by the group leaders, and Kate was treated to a little birthday celebration.
Happy birthday to you.
Surrounded by the sea, Homer turned out to be a pretty cool place to have a birthday. On our way out of town, we explored the Islands and Oceans Visitor Center. This facility gives visitors a window into the largest seabird refuge in the world, the Alaska Maritime National Wildlife Refuge, providing safe nesting habitat for over 40 million seabirds, representing over 80% of all North American seabirds. The Visitor Center has excellent exhibits that took us on a detailed journey of the refuge's past and present, and surrounded us with the sights and sounds of the remote islands. From here, we traveled with the group once again from Homer back up the peninsula to Seward, Alaska. Along the way, we passed the Swan Lake Fire that was burning near the edge of the road and putting lots of smoke in the air. Our weather in Alaska so far had been excellent, but that meant this normally cool and wet area was hot and dry. We continued on to Seward, where we set up with the group at a campground a little ways out of town to explore the area from. Seward is a town of around 3,000 and is a popular destination for cruise ships. The town is the southern terminus of the Alaska Railroad that runs all the way to Fairbanks, as well as the original start of the famous Iditarod Trail into Alaska's interior that is most commonly known for the famous dog sled race that is run along it each winter. Seward is also home to the Alaska SeaLife Center.
We are in Seward, Alaska at the Alaska SeaLife Center. This is an aquarium that has lots of fish, lots of marine mammals like seals and sea lions, and we're also going to get up close and personal with some seabirds, namely the puffin.
This center's mission is marine animal rehabilitation, research, and public education, and we had the unique opportunity to join the group for a special talk and demonstration all about puffins. We learned that there are 3 species of these adorable birds, and that they swim better than they fly and can dive to depths around 200 feet in search of fish and zooplankton. These birds are native to the rocky shorelines of this area, and the SeaLife Center has an aviary where we could watch these cute guys up close swimming, flying, and diving. In addition to the puffins, the center houses a wide variety of fish, birds, and mammals. We loved watching these animals up close, but our next adventure in Seward would take us to see these animals in the wild.
We are down here on the docks in Seward, Alaska. We're about to board one of these boats to take a cruise around Resurrection Bay with the tour group we're with. And it is really windy out today. There's some pretty rough seas. I've taken my Dramamine, so we'll see how this goes, but we're really looking forward to this.
Unfortunately, the smoke from the Swan Lake Fire had rolled down the valley and was inundating Seward and Resurrection Bay, significantly reducing our visibility. This tour first took us out to Fox Island for lunch and educational talks by rangers because so much of the land around us is the Kenai Fjords National Park. Here we were also treated to a talk and demonstration about gray owls that are common through this region. The tour continued around the perimeter of Resurrection Bay, where we saw many of the bird species we had learned about at the SeaLife Center, along with sea lions and seals. Resurrection Bay is a deep fjord with many glaciers descending into it, but the smoke was obscuring much of our view. Regardless of the smoke, getting out on the water and experiencing the beauty of this rugged coastline was so much fun. Once again, it was time for us to say goodbye to our traveling companions, but we shared one last meal with everyone before they departed for their next adventure, and we moved downtown to one of the many waterfront RV sites that are managed by the city. It was surprising to see a city that dedicated prime waterfront real estate to RVs, but it makes sense as it provides lots of accommodation for visitors in such a small town, and many Alaskans travel locally by RV. While these RV accommodations have been improved and formalized over the years, it is still much the same as how my family spent time here in our little Winnebago when we lived in Anchorage. Fishing is great right from the shore, and I caught multiple pink salmon right from our campsite. Staying here was a neat way to reminisce of my childhood, but there was one thing that always captured my interest as a kid that I never got an opportunity to experience until now.
Behind me is Mount Marathon. This mountain is visible from anywhere in Seward and is iconic because of the trail that goes right up its face to the peak. On the 4th of July every year, they run a race from downtown Seward all the way to the 3,000-foot top of that mountain, and it's one of the most grueling 5K races in the world. As a kid, we came here to Seward a lot, and that trail always enticed me, but I was too small to do it. So today, we're gonna hike from our campsite all the way to the top.
Alaska is known for intense wilderness races, and this is one of the most well-known. One of the oldest foot races in America, this race was first documented in 1915 and has been run each year since. It is so challenging that it is not recommended even as a hike, and during the race, people frequently come away with serious injuries. Not racing, we slowly picked our way up through the dense vegetation at the lower elevations to this exceedingly steep mountain face.
I don't know why we're doing this. I'm terrified of heights. Gonna make it. We're gonna make it.
Luckily, the view from the top was incredible.
Well, we made it to the top of this incredibly strenuous hike. It was terrifying. It is so steep, so slippery, and it's hard to believe that people actually race up here. It took us over 2 hours to get to the top of the mountain via the race trail. There is an alternative method to get up here. The race trail basically goes straight up the mountain. It took us 2 hours. The top time for getting up and back down from the center of town is around 40 minutes. So that's insane. While I respect that these people can race up and down this, there's no way we're gonna race back down that. We are gonna find an alternative route back down, but childhood dream, check. We don't have to do this again.
So on one of the last nights that we were in Seward, I got Mocha out of the truck and set her down on the ground, and she just completely lost her balance. Mocha has a condition called old dog vestibular disease. What ends up happening is the vestibular nerve gets a little inflamed and causes them to basically lose their balance. When a dog has vestibular event, their eyes start darting around. And Mocha had one of these episodes before. So when it happened in Seward, at least we recognized it and we knew exactly what it was.
It's been like this for the whole day. Eyes are still twitching.
This time, however, it lasted much longer. This disease has a bit of good news with it. While it completely debilitates them for a time, some dogs can't even stand up, they don't progressively get worse. So when it hits them, that's as bad as it's going to get. They're not going to get worse. They almost always get better. So with Mocha, we just knew that it was a matter of time. We just had to give her time to come out of it. And we didn't know how long that was gonna be. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 3 days, it could be 3 weeks or even more. We just had to be patient. It's really hard to see a dog like that when, you know, just the day before they were running around being very active and very happy. And it broke my heart to watch her be that way.
With Mocha's predicament and heavy smoke settling into Seward that was burning our eyes and making it hard to breathe, we decided to find some clear air to recuperate. We utilized the University of Alaska's smoke prediction site to look at the forecast and determined our best bet for clear air was heading back south through the fire. The fire had jumped the road, and this drive was some of the thickest smoke we had ever been through, with visible flames on both sides. Luckily, the predictions were correct, and we came out the south side into clear air. We headed for a place we heard had free beach camping just south of the town of Kenai, and settled in for a few days of clear air and restorative walks for Mocha on the soft sand.
After about 3 days, she was looking so much better. The twitching in her eyes was still there a little bit, but she was able to walk, and the beach was perfect because if she shook or if she fell down, it was nice and soft and she just was able to get right back up. So that was really, really wonderful for her recovery. You just never know when something like this is going to happen when you're on a really long trip like this, and fortunately it all turned out for the best for us and for Mocha, and we're really fortunate for that. But you know, life still happens even when you're on the road.
Here we would stay until the forecast predicted the reversal of the smoke that would force us back north once again.